Hello. Um, it's 11:30. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. It's 11:30, almost midnight, so it'll be midnight at some point during this episode while I talk about the movie Sinners. I'm sure you've heard of this movie. It is simply taking over. And honestly, this episode is a little bit even past the prime of the movie. You've probably heard about it and it's old news. Well, I didn't get to say anything about it, so I'm going to today. And I usually don't spend entire episodes talking about movies. In the past, I've talked about 10 movies at once, ranking my favorite films from a year. Or sometimes I talk about movies in an episode briefly, but not the whole time. So today we are talking about Sinners, the movie, and only that for the entire episode. And this is, in some ways, a test, because I've always thought about having a separate podcast specifically dedicated to talking about movies only. So we'll see how it goes today. I have some different categories we're going to be getting into: concept identity, execution, performance, and impact. Those are the categories, and hypothetically, supposing this goes well, I will go through those categories for every movie. Like if there's ever an episode with a different movie, we're going to hit those every time. It's a format. It's a format. It is a way that I can focus on different parts of the movie that I think all movies should have. It's a way to judge. It's a formula for judgment. Sounds like a new Saw movie. Saw 11 Formula for Judgment. Okay. I'd be seated. Um anyway, yeah, so we're going to go through that, and I kind of hope that this goes well because I already started planning another episode where I talk about movies, and it's a double feature. So I'm going to talk about two movies in the same episode because they're very similar. More on that later, hypothetically, in a future episode. We'll see how this goes. Anyway, yeah, so I want to say that this movie is so good. It is by far the best movie that's come out so far this year. And I don't know how many spoilers are going to be in this episode. I don't know because I've never tried to do this before. So there's definitely going to be minor spoilers. I can promise you that much. The other thing that I will say is that, in my opinion, the trailer includes minor and major spoilers. Okay. Yeah, okay. So overall, what I'm going to say to you is that if you're actually interested in seeing this movie, turn this episode off. If you have not seen the movie yet and you would like to, turn this episode off, watch the movie, and come back to me. Okay, thank you. Next, because you really need to be going into the movie blind. Don't even watch the trailer. If you saw the trailer at one point, don't watch it again. Do not refresh yourself. Go into the movie as blind as possible. This is probably the best experience that you could have. I did not have that experience. I watched the trailer many times and had it analyzed and memorized. So, but looking back, I think you will have the best experience if you go in as blind as possible. So, consider doing that. I have seen this movie 3 times. Okay. Okay. So you could say I'm a pretty big fan, okay, of the movie. Yes, I am. I truly think this was one of the most unique movies I've ever seen. And before I get ahead of myself, let's get into that. So, for the first category to the first category in the formula of judgment, concept. So, this is exactly what it seems like. It's the concept of the movie. So, I'm just going to give some critiques on the concept, give some thoughts, and rank it out of 5. I'm going to be ranking each of these categories out of 5 after talking through it a little bit. So, concept. This movie is about a pastor's son who is a talented musician, and he gets involved with his twin cousins who are older than him, who have just come back from Chicago for suspicious reasons. There's some mystery, some intrigue around their return. And the main reason why they've returned is because they are back in their hometown to open up a juke joint, a music spot where people can go and listen to the blues and people can play the blues. The year is 1920s, 1930s, somewhere around there. Slavery is a hot topic. It's talked about throughout the movie in very interesting ways, some very interesting perspectives. But yeah, that is a generalization of the concept. That's how I would give you the concept if I was going to give you the spoiler-free version. Are there zombies? Wait, not zombies, no. Vampires? Are there vampires in the movie? Yeah. And so now you're probably wondering if you haven't seen it. Well, wait, didn't you say that was about music? And wait, what? Uh-huh. So go see it. Go see it if you want to know more. But anyway, so yeah, that's a really bad summary of the concept of the movie. If we're talking about genre, this is something that I've seen people complain about, is that the movie has many different genres because, it does have vampires. It has some horror elements. Okay. But then it also has music, full musical numbers. I say that loosely. There's no choreography. I mean, not in the traditional sense. It's not a traditional musical theater musical number, but there are multiple musical numbers in the film. Okay. So we have that. We have musical. We have horror. And we also have drama. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of characters with depth and nuance. And there's also a lot of comedy. So some people were complaining about this movie about having genre fatigue, like it was trying to do too much at once. I simply don't agree. I thought the concepts and the genres were all meshed together very well. In the first half of the movie, it's drama and comedy and music. And we're learning about these characters. Most of the beginning of the movie is all these long scenes of dialogue, of talking, where we get to know everyone, we get to know the world. And then the second half, it's just crazy, and we get to see the characters that we've learned so much about interacting with some new elements. Vampires. So conceptually very interesting, genre-wise doing a lot, but I really liked it, and that's why the movie is so unique, like I said earlier, because it has so many different genres going on. It has so many different tones, so much color, so much there's just so much going on. It's a melting pot of ideas and genres, and it's done very well. What can I say? It's done very well. It makes me feel like I'm having a realistic experience during the movie because, you know, our day to day lives are not limited to one genre. Are you getting what I'm right? Like, we listen to music in the car for 30 minutes, and that's our musical genre. We have a good conversation with a friend. That could be drama, that could be comedy, and there's horror too. Maybe not vampires. If you have vampires in your life in real life, I would like for you to go ahead and just throw me a DM. I might be interested in learning more about that. But you see what I'm saying? I think our real life has multiple genres meshed together, mixed up in there. And this movie, to me, in my opinion, of which this is all, um, in my opinion, they did very well. Mixing all of the genres, mixing all the tones, mixing all the emotions, and it felt like real life. It felt true to my experience as a human being. So, yeah, the themes of the movie, I'm not going to deep dive into them right now, but what I will say right now is that the themes of the movie are rich. There are many different themes. There's many different things for you to chew on. Like I said, I've seen the movie 3 times, so it was very rewarding on each rewatch. Highly would recommend, especially if you liked it, go see it again, duh. But to me, that all falls under the concept because the concept of the film is so rich in themes and genres and feelings and emotions. It gives you so much to latch on to, and it really leaves you thinking. It really leaves you talking. I'll get more into that later. But so for concept, I am going to give this movie a 5 out of 5. And it really is because it is such a unique experience. It's hard for me to compare it to any movie that I've ever seen. There's some things that can compare in some ways, but overall, I have never watched a movie quite like it. And so that is why it's going to get a 5 out of 5 in the concept department. So let's move on now to identity. Okay, that's the next category. So this is going to include a couple of different things. This is going to include cinematography, the score, the feel, the vibe, the atmosphere, things like that. Okay, this could also include something like marketing, okay, which I've already touched on a little bit, and I'm going to get a little bit more into it. But first, I want to start by just talking about the cinematography briefly. I'm going to start with what I liked about the cinematography. What I liked simply is that the movie looks beautiful. The movie looks beautiful. It's shot very well. To me, it was obvious that director of photography ate down, and he was very interested, he or she, I don't know. They were very interested in the world that was being built. The cinematography was beautiful, and it was informed by the storytelling, which it's a movie, so it should be. Cinematography was beautiful. I even loved the way that it was color edited, the way that it looked, the color grading, really unique, just felt old, felt vintage, but it didn't look, bad. It felt vintage without looking old. So yeah, really well executed. And sometimes when we get films or especially television shows set in the past, especially like multiple years in the past, the footage is like, but it looks like they have iPads. Like, you don't see an iPad, but the way that it looks and the way that it's shot, you're like, huh, I know that they got out of their frocks and got on Instagram and TikTok. And that's not true about this movie. The shots look and are color graded in a way that make the world look old and rustic and like they don't have TikTok. So yeah, so that's all I really need to say about cinematography. Okay, score, I feel not 50-50 about. I feel confident. But what I will say is that the first time that I watched the movie, I didn't really notice the score. And by the score, I don't mean the musical numbers featured in the film. I mean the background music, the OST, the original soundtrack. The first time I watched the movie, I didn't really notice it, which it's good that I didn't notice it in a bad way. But I didn't really have a song from the soundtrack that stood out to me, like a theme that was repeated multiple times, or like something that I latched onto musically in the background music. That did not happen for me the first time. The second time and the third time, I completely caught on to the themes that were being repeated throughout the music and the score itself and the intentionality behind it. And even some of the people that I went and saw it with pointed out some intentionalities with the soundtrack in the way certain instruments are used, the way that at certain points in the story there's electronic sounding instruments versus fully acoustic, and the intentionality behind the use of those instruments at what time during the movie. So I noticed the soundtrack way more the second time and way more the third time. And even today, I've latched onto those themes and I can hear the certain character themes, the certain melodies that they repeat throughout the movie. So all that to say, I would have liked the score to catch me very strongly the first time that I watched it. But on the rewatch and the third watch, it completely got me and I saw the light and the score is great. I'm still, that's not going to give major points off, but I had to consider the fact that I didn't really notice it the first time. So that's all I need to say about the score. The feeling, the vibe, this is kind of what I was talking about with the color grading. Everything feels right. Everything feels very vintage. I really like that a lot of this movie takes place in one location. I love some minimal settings, minimal locations. There's a lot of locations in the first half of the movie, but the second half really just takes place in one location. And so I was glad that the location that most of the movie took place in was very well thought out, very well designed to get a camera in the space and make the space look like a real space. So yeah, the setting was great. The vibes were great. The vision was great. The identity is great. Okay, but I do want to say something again. I talked about the trailer. The trailer gave away way too much in my opinion. This is something that I have seen people arguing about on Twitter. Some people saying it doesn't even matter because I don't agree with them. So I'll just censor them. It's my podcast. Okay. No, but I thought the trailer gave away too much. And I understand why the trailer did what it did. So the trailer shows the vampires, right? And in the movie, you could watch the movie and kind of be surprised by the fact that there's vampires. Like, that could be a plot twist, a midway plot twist, which would have been really iconic. Like, that would be awesome. However, I understand why they decided to give a lot of the movie away in the trailer by revealing what characters are vampires, revealing that there are vampires. I understand why they did this, because I think from a marketing perspective, if they had marketed the movie as what it really is, and also what it really is minus the vampires, a lot less people would have gone to see it. That's just the sad truth. It's the reality. It also could have risked that a lot of people that did go to see it, assuming that this is a reality where they did not show vampires in the trailer, there could have been a lot more people that went to see it just for the drama, the historical drama, and the music side of it. And then when the vampires start happening, they would have started to hate the movie. Now, that's kind of a cop-out, because I think the vampires are done well and they support the story and they support the overall vision. So, it's kind of a cop-out, because I think if you have good taste, the vampires shouldn't ruin the movie for anyone. And, it's just hard for me because I love horror. And so when the vampires show up, I'm like, here we go. Like, here we go. But I could see how little Miss Karen goes to the theater with her husband, and they were expecting a beautiful historical and musical drama, and then there's vampires, and they're like, well, I never, and blah, 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 and then they're mad, and then they go on Facebook and they say, don't ever watch this movie, it's demonic. So again, I think the way they chose to market the film hurt the viewer's experience watching the film a little bit, but I understand why they did it, and I think it was honestly probably the smart move, because a movie like this just deserves to have eyes on it. It deserves to have as many people sitting and watching as possible. And it's a powerful movie, so it deserves to have people sitting there to have the impact that it can have, which we'll talk about later. So while I do think the trailer and the marketing hurt the movie-going experience, I do think that probably, honestly, it was the smart decision, especially since this movie is a new IP. It's not connected to any big corporations. It's an original idea. We need to do whatever we can to market it and get people in the seats. So, but I just needed to be honest about that, because it did bother me a little bit how much they showed in the trailer. But I did like in the trailer how, and see, this is weird. The trailer gave away so much, but the trailer also concealed the true story of the movie. So it was almost like the plot twists that you got watching the movie after watching the trailer weren't that there were vampires. That wasn't the plot twist. The plot twist was, oh, there's a rich story going on here. Oh, there's wonderful characters. Oh, there's all this beautiful, emotional dialogue. So the plot twist of the movie was actually how deep it was and not shallow. So kind of a reverse plot twist, where someone might usually lead with all of that in the trailer about how emotional the movie is and then hide the vampires for a plot twist. They kind of did it the opposite way. So I think that's really actually funny. But yeah, so that's what I'll say about the marketing. Okay, yeah. Another thing that I want to say about, just this falls in the identity category, because it's talking about kind of the world building a little bit. So obviously I've already talked about this. There's vampires. Okay, great. There's vampires in the movie, and yet the world that the movie lives in is fully our world. So if you're like me, you're like, well, we don't really have vampires. So it could be a little jarring to, in the first half of the movie, be in our world, reality, and then all of a sudden there's vampires, because then you're like, ooh, whoa, that's a big jump, because we don't have vampires, so like, what's going on? But one thing the movie did really, 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 really well, the vampires show up halfway through the movie. Okay? Before that, everything is very normal. Everything is very you and I. We can relate right there to what's going on. But to get you ready for this big shift that's going to happen where there's going to be vampires in the movie, in our world, they introduce a character who has some magical kind of earth witch, like Wiccan type. I don't know exactly what terms the movie would use to describe this character, and I could tell that it was rooted in the character's culture, so I definitely don't know the right phrasing for what this would technically be, but to me it was giving like, she had a connection to the spiritual world, and she was a little bit witchy, and she even, her character talks about praying for another character for protection, and that to her it was her praying that protected him. So it implies that she has some power in, whatever way, not necessarily like a superpower, but like a spiritual power. And then she also does a little ritual on like this bag that the main character wears that protects him. It's like a ward to ward off evil or whatnot. And so she does this little ritual to like refresh the energy, the protecting energy in his necklace. So all of that, the way that it's presented is very like, it's your first glimpse into, it's like dipping the toes in the pool of, okay, so it is our world, and there's a little bit something more going on. Like there's a little bit something more, even if it's just like, it's our world, but it's heightened a little bit in the spirituality, like the spiritual plane is a little bit closer to our plane. If you want to view it that way, you could view it as a little bit kind of magic-y vibe. However you view it, the movie did a great job of kind of introducing some fantasy elements, some magical elements into the world before it was just like, oh, and there's vampires now. So I really thought that was a strategic move. It was interesting just in the movie in general, and it gave that character a lot of interesting perspective. But I also just thought it was a really good first step to give us as an audience, to prepare us for some of the more crazy shifts from our world to a world with vampires. So really well done. All in all, Identity is going to get a 4 out of 5. It's really just getting 1 point knocked off for some of the trailer issues like I talked about, in the score not being as great the first time, but the second time I got it. So I'm still being generous, but 4 out of 5. So now execution. This is where the movie struggled the most for me. Flat statement, blanket statement is, when the movie excelled, it excelled with flying colors. And then when it stumbled a little bit, it did stumble. So mostly what occurs for me is the editing was an issue at some times, which is crazy to say, because in some scenes the editing is prolific and very skillfully executed. I don't know how else to say that. The editing is very good. The editing is so good. It's inspired editing. It's editing that was done with care and precision and with the bigger narrative in mind, not just editing like, oh, and we cut here because we need to see this person's face and we need to see this line and da-da-da. The editing was inspired in some scenes. And then in some moments, it occurred to me that they had to make some hard decisions about scenes they would keep into the final cut and scenes they would keep out, and maybe that they were missing something to bridge certain jumps. There were points in the editing where it was a little like, that wasn't the smoothest transition possible into this. Or there were parts in the editing where it was a little cheesy. They do something that I don't like, and they do this a couple of times. They show scenes from the movie multiple times. I don't really mind if there's a point where, like, at the end of the movie, a character's seeing scenes from the beginning of the movie. But there were a couple shots in the movie that we saw 3 or 4 times. And I was like, why are we doing this again? Like, why are we getting the flashback again? So it was a little heavy-handed with some of the, like, character flashback moments. I don't really like that. I don't like, as a rule, I'd like to eliminate almost all of them. Unless you're showing me a scene again to give me new information that I did not have when I saw the scene the first time, we don't need to be seeing scenes again. Because, like, in a flashback scenario or something, like, the movie is doing, like, a callback to a previous scene, and then they'll show you the scene because the character is probably seeing that scene from earlier in their mind. But I'm like, no, I know that that's what they're seeing. I don't need to see it again because I did see it, and it's a movie, so I saw it probably an hour ago. Like, in real life, it might have been weeks ago for the character, but I've only been sitting here for 2 hours, so, like, I remember. So I don't really like it when movies do that in general. And in this one, it was fine the first time, but then it kept happening a couple times, and I was like, okay, like, we don't need to be doing all that. So there was definitely, like, an editing, just a gripe. I just had a gripe with some of the editing. Some of the editing was just a little heavy-handed. It was a little sloppy. But again, in some points in the movie, the editing was so good that I wanted to win an Oscar. Like, it was very that. There was, like, some scenes where it was like, seems like, oh, they could have spent 7 years editing this one scene, and then other scenes where I was like, oh, that was not really the best way to do that. So but beyond that, yeah, I think editing and the script was amazing. Like I said earlier, the first half of the movie is really just dialogue between a lot of the characters, and so obviously that's just the script. Very strong. But I still think maybe it could have gotten 1 or 2 more. They could have gone through the script one more time with a fine-tooth comb and just cut out a few spots here and there of unnecessary dialogue, or added a slight tweak of something to make it a little stronger. But that's me being very nitpicky. It's a hard movie to execute. It's a very hard movie to execute. There's so much going on, and there's so much, sensitive material, and there's so much complex material. And overall, they did an incredible job handling all different kinds of subjects. And so, even though I had some issues with the execution, it's still going to get a 3 out of 5 overall for execution, because it's a very hard movie to make, and this was an original concept. So they did amazing. I mean, we're sitting here talking about it, and I'm really being nitpicky with some of those things that I didn't like. So, talking about performance now, I think it's pretty obvious what this category is going to entail. We're talking about the actors and actresses and their performance on screen and in full color cinema. Okay, great. So, what if I said no one was bad? What if I said in the entire movie, no one did bad? No one did bad. There was not one moment where I did not believe any character. Everyone was just so talented. Some standouts that I want to talk about is Delroy Lindo. I don't know if that's how you say his name. I can hardly say my friends' names. But he played the alcoholic blues singer, piano player, harmonica player guy that they pick up to play at the juke joint. And his performance specifically for me was just so enthralling. He was the character. It would be hard for me to watch another movie with him in it and not think about this role. And I know what I'm talking about. Even if you haven't seen the movie, you can think of a role that someone did so authentically and so genuinely that role has gone with you into every movie that they've ever been in, and it's been work to not see that character that actor or actress played in everything that they do. That is how I feel about this role. He embodied the character in such an alive way. The mannerisms, the way of speaking, the timing of a pause or a breath that the character gives. I mean, it was dazzling. It was incredible. And I'm sure the script was just really good also for his character, but it was really that good. And I can see how much he added to the character. I can see where he took the words and made them jump right off the page into the lens, into our eyes, on the screen. And I loved him. I loved him so much. Obviously, you already know that I'm going to talk about Haley Steinfeld. But let's wait a second. One thing that, and this is script as well as the acting, but it was really cool how every single character I knew exactly what their POV was. I knew exactly what they wanted. I knew exactly who they were. I knew exactly what they feared. I knew exactly what they thought about vampires existing. I knew you knew the characters so well. And it was because they were acted out with such care, and casted with such care. Hello, casting directors. Let's give out some credit. Let's give out some credit for the casting directors. Hunger Games shout out. That is so relevant right now, but I can't talk about it. I'm freaking out about the Hunger Games Sunrise on the Reaping casting every day. But that's a complete side note. I have to talk about that some other time. But yeah, I knew exactly the POV that every character had during every scene. So that was a lot of fun. And that, like I said, was in part due to the script writing, but also just the way that the actors embodied the characters, so that I knew, I knew when they were being snappy and snarky and sarcastic and when they were being serious, and that helped me inform my view of the character. So literally everyone did an incredible job. But another standout, Haley Steinfeld. Now listen, I do not see enough Haley Steinfeld love on my timeline. I see y'all loving characters that she plays. She's very famous for Gwen in the Spider-Verse animated movies. She voices Gwen. She also voices Vi from Arcane. Think about those two. Think about those two characters just for a second. How big both of those animated film and television shows are. They are so big. And, Vi is the main character in Arcane. Gwen is basically the female lead. And Haley Steinfeld bagged both of those. She's that girl. Yeah, so I'd like to see some more respect on her name, please and thank you, starting now, okay? So go ahead and go on to Pinterest.gov, find the hottest picture that you can of that woman, and go ahead and post it to your Instagram story and say thank you. Okay, I'm going to give you 5, 4, 3, 2, and we're back. Okay. Whoa. Crazy. I have all of you on post notifications, and it's just like hundreds and hundreds of story notifications. Wow, great job everyone. So also Haley Steinfeld is in Marvel Bleh. I don't care about that. But she's also in the Emily Dickinson TV show on Apple TV. Dickinson. That show is very hit or miss, but she's amazing in that. Last thing that she's in that I want to give a special shout out to, When Marnie Was There. Studio Ghibli film that is amazing and criminally underrated. She voices the main character in the English dub, and so I will be saying that the English dub is good. So you should definitely watch the English dub version of that movie. But Haley is amazing. Also, she does music, and like it's good. You should definitely listen to her song. What's it called? Sun Kissing? I think it's called Sun Kissing. Song of the summer this year and every year. It is spectacular. So, she's literally amazing. There's nothing she can't do. She's beautiful, gorgeous, and a model. And an incredible actress. I mean, incredible actress. Watch the movie. She's so good. She cries multiple times. And it looks real. You know? It's not just that type of crying in a movie where they added water to their eye off screen and then the actress or actor is like laughing, but it looks sort of like they're crying, but it's really they're laughing and someone else is covering their face so you can't tell that it's laughing. You can tell I have a pet peeve with that. I think I'm going to make an episode where I talk about all of my movie pet peeves, because I've already mentioned 2. Anyway, but Haley cries and it's very believable. And then also, spoiler alert, she becomes an evil vampire and she gets so hot and sexy, and I would let her kill me. I would let her snap my neck and turn me into a vampire, and I would probably thank her for it. And why does she look so good covered in blood? Things to consider. Questions that keep me up at night. Things that inspire joy. Anyway, so that was also the really big draw to the movie for me, was Haley is not in enough serious media. And so this movie was something that I knew was going to be very serious and taken very seriously, hopefully. And of course it has been so far. It's had an amazing reception. And so to see her succeed so well in this movie and see the movie be so well received, it really makes me excited and makes me hopeful that she is going to get cast in more things and there's going to be a renaissance of Haley Steinfeld, because I have been here since day one. I have been cheering her on for years. I love her so much. And it seems like she never gets her flowers. So she did an absolutely incredible job in this movie and in everything that she does. And I really hope that we get to see more of her, not just in voice acting work, because she's obviously very renowned in that. She's very popular in that. But I'd like to see her more on screen. Her beautiful, gorgeous, incredible face. And her amazing line delivery. So good that I saw it. When this movie came out, her line delivery was the only thing that was trending on Twitter. Girl. Her line delivery was like going viral for multiple of her lines. I think that's probably what did the most promotion for the movie after the movie came out. People were going to see the movie just to see her say some of these lines. So, and there were crazy lines. But if it's a crazy line delivered poorly, no one cares. No one moves. And people were moving. People were moving and running to the theater after they saw her say some of these lines. So acting is going to get a 5 out of 5. I'm sorry. Sorry, sue me. Sue me. But also, it should be said that the characters were so good and compelling that, like I've already said, the first half of the movie, there's no vampires. So you watch the first half of the movie, and you know that there's going to be vampires because you've seen the trailer. Or if you're lucky, you haven't. But if you haven't, and you're still listening to this podcast, I literally told you to click off. So, but anyway, you're watching the movie, and the characters are so good and so compelling that, at least for me, I was watching the first half and I fell so in love with all these characters that once I started to think, I was like, oh, this is still a vampire movie. This is still a horror movie. And so some of these people are going to die. And that's why I went to see the movie, was for the horror, was for the vampirism. I went to go see the movie because it was a vampire movie. But then when I was sitting in the movie, I didn't even want it to be a vampire movie anymore because I loved all these characters so much. And I was like, great, now I get to watch them suffer. That's not fun. I mean, it was fun. It's a good movie, but like, I was so compelled by the characters that it made me sad when I realized I was sitting in the movie and I'd forgotten that it was a vampire movie. And then I was like, great, it's all downhill from here. And it was, in the best way. But, so yeah, 5 out of 5 on performances. I mean, I've said enough already. Last category is impact. And, you know, some movies are going to score low on the impact scale, and I'm still going to consider them good. Even really good in some cases. Because impact, the way that I will think about it when I'm reviewing movies, there's a cultural impact element. There's a personal impact element. And both of those are also very subjective, obviously. And there's more than one type of impact. Because there's a type of impact that's like, this movie was so impactful that it inspired me to make something cool. It inspired me to XYZ in a way that's shallow. Like, a movie can be impactful because it's so funny, it's so joyful, you enjoy it so much, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the movie impacted you on an emotional level or like a thinky, yeah, nice, but like a really thoughtful level. Just, I want to broaden the spectrum of impact, and for this movie specifically, I'm talking about like impact in the general sense of like walking away from the movie thinking about the movie for a long time. But yeah, I mean, specifically, what sticks out to me about this movie is I went and saw it 3 times, as I said. And every time after the movie, each group of people that I went and saw it with, we all talked about the movie after. And pretty much everyone that I went with had something different to say about it. Something different that compelled them. Something different that stood out to them. Something different that they saw thematically that impacted them. Everyone saw different things in it. And everyone was talking about it. Everyone wanted to talk about it after the movie. And that's not always true. I've seen so many movies with my friends. I've seen so many movies with myself. And people don't always talk after a movie. Sometimes we get out of the movie and we go, wow, that was good. And then we don't even, like, that's all we say. But the fact that every single person that I went and saw this movie with, and I think I saw this movie with like 8 or 9 different people across all 3 times, everyone had something to say. And everyone was excited about talking about it. And that to me is a good movie, good art. It's something that gets people talking. That to me is the ultimate win. And then to go a step further and say that everyone was talking about it, but everyone saw something different in it. That's great art. Good art, everyone's talking about it. Great art is that everyone sees something different. Everyone is able to come to it and bring their own experience and their own take on it. That is the thing we should all be striving for as artists, as people. the ability to talk to one another and see what everyone sees. So the fact that this movie was able to do that so well with all the different people that I saw it with, I think speaks highly and speaks volumes to the impact of this movie. Generally, but then I also just want to talk about something very specific. There's a scene. There's a scene in this movie. I truly don't think that there is a better scene in any movie, and I don't know if there ever will be. There is a scene that is so inspired and so, you can say something or you can show someone something, and they showed us a concept about being a human being, about music. They used this one scene to so accurately and magically portray something almost so hard to describe with words. They proved why we make movies. They showed us in one scene, this is why we make movies. This is what movies should be about showing these complex feelings and complex concepts. And it was so inspired and it was so beautifully done. If you've seen the movie, you know exactly what scene I'm talking about. I don't have to say anything about it. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And it was truly a magical moment when I saw it for the first time. And even I had seen, before I saw the movie the first time, I saw people online talking about a scene, being like, wow, that scene. And I was like, okay, well now my experience is ruined because I'm going to be No. The scene is so good that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's so good. It transcends anything that anyone could say or trying to spoil it or anything. It is just the most beautiful and flawless execution of what it means to make a movie and what it means to make visual art. It was incredible. I'm going to remember it forever. I'll rewatch the movie a million times, I'm sure. I'm confident in that. But it was like one of those scenes that I'll just remember forever. And it's hard for me to even think of other moments in movies that compare. I can compare them to other scenes that have struck me so at my core. But this one was something different. It was really just a magical and beautiful use of the visual media. It was absolutely inspired. It was so unique, so incredible, and the scene was so good that all the other gripes I have, and again, minimal gripes that I have with the movie, overshadowed by how ingenious the movie is at its core. And yeah, that's pretty much all that I have to say. So can you guess? I'm gonna give a 5 out of 5 for impact. I think I pretty much made that clear, but yeah, this film is transcendent. It will touch your soul if you let it. It will show you exactly how beautiful and how delicate it is to be human, and so many other different themes. There are so many different themes that I could talk about, but I'm not going to be heavy-handed with it, especially since I just want you to have your own experience. If you want to talk to me about it more, sure, why not? And if you enjoyed this episode, please let me know, because I would like to consider doing more film review episodes in the future. Maybe not when it's 11:30, now 12:30, so late, and I'm so tired, because I am. But yeah, overall, I gave the movie 4.5 out of 5 stars. Let me make sure that's true. I couldn't give it the full 5 stars because it is incredible, and it will be probably in my top 3 movies for the year. It's so good. But with some of the just technical details, I had to get rid of half a star. So yeah, 4.5 out of 5 stars. But that is the strongest 4 out of 5 stars that I've ever given in my life. I mean, the movie deserves 5 stars, but I'm just so critical. It just needed a half star of a little bit extra finessing around some of the edges, and that would have been. But again, it's like the movie's so good that I can't complain. So, anyway, I'm gonna go. Am I gonna go to bed? Well, not quite yet. I've got a couple of other things I gotta get into tonight still. But I'll be back next week with an exciting episode. And if you guys liked this episode, let me know, and I will do my double feature movie review. It will not be doubly as long. I'm gonna do 2 movies that I have a lot less to say about. So, but yeah, let me know if you want to see more episodes in this style. But either way, I will see you here next week on Sunday. And this has been Happy Thoughts. I forgot to say that. I forget to say it every time. But